IVM.
Hi, I'm Zarina Poonawalla, a life coach, a business mentor, and a motivational speaker. I tackle the challenges that come with varied work cultures, and I try to give out some cheat codes for loving your job in the second season of the Empowering series with me, Zarina. This show will feature live sessions with me and a participant, most likely to be an entrepreneur, a startup founder, an employee, a recruiter, or just about anyone who strives to love their job and looks forward to bringing in a positive shift at their workplace. With me today I have Iden D Souza. He is the current marketing director at Powertalk UK Limited, and he's got a former event head experience at the Hindu. He's got 22 years full of experiences, I guess, behind him, and he comes with an advertising, media, and wonderful other expertise along with him. So today, let's talk to Iden and figure out something which has to do with his experience, but also a very interesting other topic that's called investments. So, hi Iden.
Hi Zarina.
How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on our show, and yes, I'm absolutely perfect. Thing is, we've usually talked about plenty of different aspects in communication, in life. Investment is something, people don't really indulge into too much. So first, why don't you tell me a little bit about, if I've missed out on some of your details, why don't you fill us in about what exactly you do? I've seen Powertalk here has a very nice slogan with it. It's called Empowering Communication.
That's right. So,
right?
Yeah. So, Powertalk UK Limited is a very old company.
Mm-hmm.
It's got over 30 years of existence.
Right.
And it deals with life coaching, NLP training. It's got presentation skills. Mm-hmm. It's got confidence building. It's got body language and lots of stress management techniques which they give. So,
wow. Just sounds like a branch of what I do.
Is
literally,
it? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And the idea that it's called the Empowering Communication, it's the Empowering series with Zarina. So,
lovely,
it just seems like the perfect blend here.
Lovely. That's
synergy.
Very nice to hear.
Yes.
So it comes with a whole lot of experience in terms of these techniques which we teach the youth.
Right.
And also the corporate as well.
Okay.
And it helps individuals to handle various things in various situations.
Yes.
And I think I've got a whole lot of experience as far as advertising, client servicing, sales, operations. I've done it all. So I know exactly how a business functions.
That's amazing.
That's the reason why I'm helping my sister as well in hers.
Okay.
And I also do a lot of other things, like I'm also writing my own book.
Oh, wonderful.
Which I'm almost nearing completion.
Really?
But it's also to do with investments. So that's why I chose investments.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
So,
investment is, in fact, I'm going to get to learn something from you on this show today.
Okay.
Because usually that's not my area of, I wouldn't say expertise, but it's not my area of interest.
Okay.
It's like you're investing, but you don't have so much of an idea. So it's amazing to have somebody who's going to have some insightful thoughts on how one should get into investing. So, Iden, what do you think is the ideal way of investing, or do you have any thoughts on how you should kind of divide or categorize your investments?
Okay, so before I come to that point, let me just give you a gist as to what investing is all about.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people who don't understand the word investing. Okay, so investing is nothing but a person, an individual. Every individual has an asset sheet, a liability sheet, an income sheet, and an expense sheet.
True.
So basically, everybody earns an income. You have expenses, so you spend your money. And either you spend your money to splurge, or you spend your money to buy an asset.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you spend your money to splurge, that's a liability.
Correct.
And when you spend your money to buy something for your future, which will grow, that's called an asset.
Wow.
Okay, so that's what investing is all about.
That's fascinating. I mean, the explanation is fascinating.
Yeah.
I think I'll just stop splurging the minute you said this. Yeah, literally.
And then the story goes on. There are two guys called Ram and Sham.
Okay.
So Ram is a guy who comes out of his house. You have to just picture this, what I'm going to say.
All right, I'm visualizing.
And what he does is he goes out, he picks up his girlfriend, he goes to a cafe, he splurges his money, he goes for a movie, he buys a gizmo. He goes into a beer bar, they have a couple of beers.
Right.
And then they decide, oh, I don't have any more money left.
Okay.
So let's go home. Okay?
Right.
So this is the guy called Ram.
Ram. All right.
Then there's a guy called Sham. Sham's the guy he comes out of his house, he goes straight to the bank.
Okay.
He checks his bank details, he checks his FDs. He realizes one is matured, so he encashes that. He takes that money, he goes out, he takes his girlfriend for lunch. Okay? Then he goes to his CA, checks his other investments. He decides, okay, I'm doing well.
Right.
Then he takes her out again for a couple of beers. And then when he's going home, they show him entering a BMW.
Okay.
So the difference between the two is one guy only spends, the other guy, Sham, spends on what he's earned.
Right.
So this Ram is spending from his savings.
Yes.
Sham is spending from his earnings.
Right.
So the difference between the two. So that's what we need to learn from this
The
example.
story. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Where, you need to spend your money. You can splurge. You don't need to stop splurging.
you're right. But I didn't. So in today's day and age, I think we have a lot of Rams around us in that context.
Yeah.
Because, everybody is looking. Firstly, we have, since you deal with youth and millennials in general, or a little bit mid-90s and early 2000s, you'll realize that some of them are still struggling to find a footing in terms of settling down, what we call as settling down, in just, being able to save and have securities and, have a family and a home. What really happens is people aren't in the position to save so much at an early age due to the kind of expenses in and around and on a daily basis, right? So how does one become a Sham? How do we put ourselves in that position? So maybe we can understand the importance of investment today, but to explain that to the younger generation,
Right.
how would you do that?
Now, Zareen, what happens here is it doesn't happen overnight.
Correct.
Okay, so what happens is it takes a lot of time for them to understand what investing is and then get into the actual game.
Yes.
So what people need to do is first understand that either you create assets or you create liabilities for yourself. And you start investing slowly. So you don't have to be a Warren Buffett.
Yes.
You can be a person who's investing, say, 500 rupees a month.
Warren Buffett, if I may, I believe his stock, per stock, is almost a 1.85 CR. You can't even afford it.
Yeah, that's huge. You
That's
can't afford
huge.
it.
You can't afford it.
So there are other stocks which are smaller stocks.
Smaller stocks. And
which
how
people
about,
can
what do you think
invest.
about SIPs or,
They are also very good.
mutual funds or...
I was coming to that.
Okay.
So basically what a person needs to do is they need to spread the risk of their money. So probably you have an FD, which is a safe investment in the bank. You have an SIP, which is a mutual fund, which is a little more riskier.
Okay.
But it's still safer because what happens is systematic investment.
Yes.
You put it in that mutual fund.
Mutual
and
funds.
that gains over a period of time.
Okay.
So what happens is the person spreads his risk, and then if you want to get into shares or debentures or all these high risk equity instruments, you can get into it at a later stage once you have a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Or some savings at
Or some
least.
savings which have gathered over a period of
Gathered
time.
over a period.
So
Right.
do it slowly, do it nicely, and then it happens.
So if we were to put it like this, if let's say I'm talking about an age group between 20 to 40 or 20 to 35, assume that age group, because we've got a lot of startups coming in and we've got a lot of people, jumping out of college, starting businesses, doing extremely well for themselves also. But money is something everybody doesn't know how to handle. So how do you think they should probably, what's the procedure, or how should they progressively save money? And what kind of tips would you want to give them?
So here's a thought, okay? There are certain people who use their money
Right.
as an expense. And there are
Yes.
certain people who become rich by spending.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens is Iden will spend his money and it's a liability for him.
Okay.
But Zareen will spend her money and it's an asset for her.
Right. Okay.
Now, the thought behind that is that Iden will splurge his money and not invest it in something which is going to be there for him in the future. But Zareen spends that money and creates assets. So when she creates an asset, the asset is itself creating money for her.
Yeah, is that right? That's
And people don't realize that they think a house is an asset.
okay.
But a house is only an asset when you are getting some money from it. Now, if you have a vacant house just lying there, you're paying the bills for the electricity,
There's
the
maintenance
water,
and
the
whatnot.
maintenance, and God knows what else.
Right.
Okay, so your money is going out of your pocket. So it may be the asset, may be in the asset column, but the money is going out from your expense column.
Okay.
So it becomes a liability. So that house is a liability. But if that house is rented, that money comes into your income column.
Correct.
And with that income, you buy another asset. That asset again gives you money and it comes into your income column.
Yes.
And you become richer and richer.
Perhaps.
So for the youth, the simple way is to slowly start your investing strategies. So you put it in a bank, you put it in an SIP, you put a mutual fund, you put probably a ELSS,
or
yes.
You
put these bank deposits, the government bonds, or you put certain bonds which are tax-saving bonds also.
Tax-saving bonds really help,
they really help. They may not give you much interest, but at the end of the day, it's safe.
Correct.
It's not like a share.
Yes, because that's a lot of risk for the younger generations.
Correct.
Now, what would you say the 35 and above should kind of do? 35 to 50. Because I think in India, I read this recently, in fact, only 2% of Indians actually spend on investments. Their investment idea is gold or real estate. Generally, they will not enter into equities and shares and areas like that because as a country, we don't take as much risk, apparently. So only 2%. And ironically, BSC is one of the largest places to have stock
2%,
exchanges.
2% you said, huh?
Yeah.
That's really low.
2% Indians investing in equities, right? And BSC by itself has about over 5,000 or 5,500 listed companies. So imagine the irony in our own country. You've got one of the largest stock exchanges. How many do we know? There are about 20, 23, I believe. But we only know BSE and NSE as such, if you're talking about stocks and shares, But the public in general, the citizens, they probably don't know how to do this the right way.
You're right. You're very right.
Right? So,
I agree with you.
Yeah. So maybe the 35 and plus, if we kind of help them to streamline that, okay, look, up to 35, you can save like this. And after that, this is what you must do. So not necessarily everything's going to give you benefits and profits. You've got the ups and downs, I'm believing, the bulls and bears. But in general, what would you have to say about that?
See, when it comes to stocks and shares, what I have to say is, it's very simple.
Right.
If you want to, say, invest in a Reliance.
Right.
So you need to know what that company is doing. You need to know the management. You need to know the product line that they are going to introduce. Is it going to have an impact on the future? Is it going to be a revolutionary product? Is it really going to be a product which is going to be the best in the industry?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you need to know your stuff before you invest in a stock.
Correct.
So what people do in the Indian market is they just this stock is going up, so you buy it.
Right.
So that's the mindset at this time.
So maybe the mindset.
So you need to research.
Yes.
So once you research a stock, you know the management, you know the strategy, you know the long-term plans of the company. You know what are they going to do in the future, like an Apple.
Correct.
Okay? It's legendary. He knew exactly what he has to do before he died.
Yeah,
and today they've got. Have you heard of the Apple credit card?
Yes, I did recently. Came across
phenomenal.
that. Can you imagine?
He thought of that before he died. Just imagine.
Wow. So let's do one thing. Let's hold that thought for a moment. We're going to take a short break and come right back and slip kind of deeper into this discussion because I don't think I would take a break otherwise. Let's just call for it now.
All right.
So let's see you guys on the other side of this break.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On our social media, one of the things we do is if you send us a screenshot of what you're listening to, we will repost it on our social network so that people can see that what people are listening to. Put us some comments and we'll respond to them. Also want to let people know that we're still hiring. We're looking for producers, content creators, audio engineers, developers, designers, and business roles, and basically all kinds of other things. Go to the careers page on ivmpodcast.com or send us an email at careers@indusvox.com. Wanted to announce 2 new shows that we are starting, Tech Careers in the New and Agla Station Adulthood. Tech Careers in the New is a brand new podcast presented by Accenture. It's hosted by our very own Sheeladitya Mukhopadhyay, my co-host on Shunya One. On this show, he's talking to Accenture leaders about the latest and greatest in the world of technology and gives exclusive tips on technology careers, how to grab opportunities and stay relevant. Watch out for fortnightly episodes on Wednesdays starting July 3rd. The other new show that we're launching this week is an exciting show called Agla Station Adulthood, where best friends Ritasha Rathore and Ayushi Amin ride through the various stations of life. Whether you're in your mid-20s, just entering them, or about to cross into the next decade, tune into this fun show. On Cyrus Says, best-selling author Amish Tripathi talks to Cyrus about the shared universe of all his books, the rich and inclusive history of ancient India, and his new book in the Ramchandra series, Ravan, Enemy of Aryavarta. On Equity Sahi, Shrey Lunkar, Senior VP at Motilal Oswal AMC, talks to Anupam about the pharma sector in India. On Advertising is Dead, Varun Dugirala is in conversation with the founders of Pocket Aces, Ashwin Suresh and Anirudh Pandit. They discuss the growth and potential of the Indian digital content market. On Mr. and Mrs. Binge Watch, Janice and Anirudh recommend shows that are easy to watch. Join them as they talk about the TV shows Love, Crashing and Lovesick. On the 25th episode of Golgappa, Tripti is joined by film director Vikram Fadnis. He talks about how he started his journey from being a fashion designer to becoming a movie director and his upcoming Marathi movie Smile Please. Also, our host Tripti plays an important part in this movie. On Not Just Dansak, Parzen talks to Chef Viraf Patel about Parsi fusion food. They discuss innovation versus traditional food in the Parsi food circles. On Pulyabazi, Pranay and Saurabh talk with investor and trader Harsh Vora to better understand the tussle between the Reserve Bank of India and the Indian government. And with that, let's continue with your show.
Welcome back, all of you. I'm still in conversation with Iden D Souza, and we were having this extremely deep, intense conversation about investments. So, hi back, Iden.
Hi, Zarina.
How are you?
Nice, I'm feeling good.
Feeling good? Great. So let's continue this conversation, and I'm pretty sure my listeners are interested in knowing investments. Yes. From the technical perspective, there's so much. We can have, I think, a longer conversation on that, and probably on public demand, we can do that someday. Let's talk about how you got into investing and how did you actually get to a position where you started with understanding the importance of investment, because most people don't do that. They don't understand the importance.
It's a very interesting question. And my answer is a little personal.
Okay.
So, it all started when I was very young, and I got up one day from the bed, and my mother said, make your bed, fold your bed sheet. I said, what are you talking about? The maid will do it. She said, no, fold your bed sheet. So reluctantly I folded my bed sheet, I made my bed. She said, now go make your breakfast. I said, come on mom, do it for me. She said, no, make your breakfast. So I went on to make my breakfast. Then she said, go, you wash the utensil. Whatever you dirtied, wash that also.
Okay.
So reluctantly, I did that also. I said, no, I don't know what's wrong with my mom. And then she sat me down.
Okay.
And she explained to me that when you get up early in the morning, you're fresh. And when you do one task completely,
right,
it tells your brain that you can do the next task as well. So she made me do 3 tasks.
Okay.
Where my brain said, okay, now you can do whatever you want from here on and you will complete that task. So similarly in investing, we start the investment process by opening a bank account, but we never pursue it beyond that.
Absolutely.
We don't look at a fixed deposit or a SIP or whatever.
Right.
We stop. We say, okay, the money's in the bank. I've got a fixed deposit. That's it. So, so that taught me that if you complete things, you can go on to do many things in life.
Wow.
And as far as investing per se, I learned investing the hard way. I kept reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay, you have read that one. All right.
From Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
Then I read a whole lot of other investing books like The Dhando Method.
Right.
Very good book on investing. Then I read a lot of Warren Buffett books.
He's quite inspirational in this space.
He's phenomenal.
You can't even begin to actually imagine what kind of a genius somebody can be.
He's such a genius. There was one video of his where he walks up into somebody's company and he starts talking to the receptionist. Okay. And he tells her, do you know I pay less tax than you? Do you know I pay less tax than you? And she was shocked. She said, what? He said, yes, I'm the richest man in the world and I pay less tax than you. And do you know how?
How?
He doesn't reveal that. But he's got investment techniques which we can learn from.
So much to learn. So
these are the techniques that we need to apply.
Right.
Like I said, completion. If you don't apply the entire process, you'll never be a success.
Yes.
It's the same like folding that bedsheet completely. If you leave it half, your bed is not done.
It's not done. You'll have to complete the process.
Somebody will have to complete it. So similarly, investing, if you put the money on a stock and you suddenly see that, the stock is going up, then you think you're a success. But if something happens in the market and if that stock goes down, then you don't bother because you think it's still going up. So you're not checking it. But you need to keep checking it, keep understanding what the strategy is, keep understanding what the market sentiments are.
Also, at the end of the day, it's your money, You want to multiply it. So
Correct.
You have to give it enough time, enough interest and enough research.
Absolutely.
I believe. What are the tips you would give us, Iden, in terms of how much money can somebody start off with? Let's say I literally have nothing to save. Okay? And yet you will insist that, Zarina, let's go ahead. You must save something, And I say, I can't even pay my bills right now. So how do I save? What is it that you will tell me that can make me convinced that investment at this point in time is possible for me?
See, the very first thing that I would tell you, Zarina, is that you need to make provisions for at least 2 instruments in investing.
All right.
So the first one would be a life insurance policy.
Okay.
And the second one would be a medical insurance.
Correct.
Because these two are very important.
Agreed.
And I'm not saying it for the sake of saying it, but it's really essential for everyone to put in at least 500 or 1,000 rupees a month in these 2 instruments. Because hospitalization is very costly.
Very costly. And, bad times don't fall on us with a warning.
You never know. You're suddenly in the hospital and the bills just go up.
Yes.
In 2 days, it's like 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs. And then it goes on going up. And you wonder, my God, all my savings are gone.
Have gone, yes. That's where the savings kind of get converted into expenses.
Yeah.
And those are the contingencies. You can't really plan them in advance.
You can't.
But a Mediclaim or a life insurance does help you to plan that part of
It
your
does.
life. Okay, that's interesting.
So these 2 instruments are the basic foundation of a person's investment journey.
Sure.
So you start off with these 2 investments and then you go on to other investments. Like, so suppose you're not, 6 months pass and you have some more extra money. So put that in a fixed deposit.
Right.
Put that in a SIP. Then going further, once you make some more money, then put it in a stock or a share.
Sure.
So then slowly you need to build your portfolio.
So you can kind of mitigate your risks understand how to allocate your assets eventually the process. Okay, great. So yes, if I didn't have money and you gave me this idea, I would be convinced. I would probably go and sign some papers right now and get myself an insurance in some form.
Because you're the breadwinner. So
yes, absolutely. It's important. It's important. I get that. You want to tell us what are your strengths and weaknesses, considering just in the human sense of things now. I'm just moving a little away from the investment perspective. You come from this organization called Powertalk, and you're the marketing director of the organization. You've got a varied experience of advertising and media and events. So how did you evolve as a person, and what would your strengths and weaknesses be? How do you even overcome your weaknesses, if at all?
So let's talk about the strengths first.
Sure.
So when I look at myself, I think ideating is one of the strongest trait that I have.
Right.
So if you ask me to study your brand, I can ideate and come up with something unique. That's been from a long time. So it just comes naturally to me. So wherever I go, if somebody starts talking about their quarterly plans, across the table, I can tell them, you can do this, you can do that.
Okay.
And they get a little shocked because it comes on the spur of the moment. So, and then I refine it and obviously present it in a better way. So I think ideating is very strong.
And very important.
And you need it in today's world.
That's an amazing trait to have. That's an amazing trait to not just have. I think everyone can ideate, but to recognize it as a strength, that is amazing.
Correct. So ideation is on top of the list. Then I love people, so I love talking to new people. I loved meeting all of you guys when I came earlier also.
How nice. Thank you.
So meeting new people, talking to them, sharing your experiences. Because I believe from every person you learn something.
Yes.
So, like when I came and met you, I learned that you're almost in the same business that we are.
Yes, we are.
So
literally
it's
parallel.
interesting. I mean, you get to learn from each other, and you're also a life coach. So that says a lot about this business itself.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It does.
So it's interesting to meet new people, share your experiences, and this is the second strength of mine. So meeting people, talking to them, blah blah blah. So,
I wouldn't call that blah. You've been quite interesting. So your strengths are interesting our listeners at this point in time. So don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Yes.
So appreciate it. So that's the second one. And the third one was something which is I like to make sure that everybody is de-stressed.
Right.
If somebody's stressed, I can help those people in that particular instant. So I don't like to put pressure on people and see them stressed, and so we can work as a team, because a team always wins. So there are certain things that I can do that you can't, and certain things that you can do that I can't, and we need to motivate each other to come up and get there.
Right.
So I think giving pep talks to people and motivating them is something which I discuss with my friends pretty often.
Okay.
So including Zoya here. So she pointed out, saying that you like to motivate a lot of people, and we've noticed that over the years, which I didn't.
Right, but it's just such an innate
comes
quality
naturally.
that it exuberates in your personality. Then, once you have something, you may not realize the strength of it. And people around you make you realize it, because it's not something that you've paid attention to. It's not like you go out there motivating people thinking that you're a motivator.
Yeah.
You're just doing it because you enjoy seeing people happy. You enjoy seeing people de-stressed or giving them that pep talk and pushing them to do better. So I guess it's the best compliment, actually, Iden, is the fact that people around you tell you that you're good at it.
It's really inspiring, really.
It is.
Because to learn that was also inspiring, because I never knew that before.
Okay.
And recently I've heard a lot of people saying that. So I take it as a compliment, and it's one of my plus points.
Wonderful.
Now coming to the weaknesses, I think I've worked on all my weaknesses over the years. So
how do you work on weaknesses?
So basically, if you look at anger and frustration and peer pressure and all those things. One day I was coming back from Hyderabad, and suddenly the pilot said, the thing is delayed. The flight's delayed. And you should have seen the reactions from everyone. So, and I had a long day. I was with the Hindu that time.
Okay.
And we had a really long day because we were on our feet the whole day. And to hear this, because you want to come back to your family,
you just want to get back. And
so it was really frustrating, and then people were shouting, yelling, and this. And there was one guy sitting next to me who just didn't react at all. He just sat over there coolly and calmly, and I learned from him. And I turned to him and said, "Aapka kuch reaction nahi hai? Kya hua? What happened?" So he said, "Why do you need to react? The plane is delayed anyway. So you, by reacting, is not going to make the plane fly in the next 2 minutes."
Right.
What a thing he said.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, my God, what a sentence he has shared, So
it's like a eureka moment for you.
Yeah, it was like I learned from that man, and that man was so cool and calm. And he sat there and he said, order some juice, he's telling me.
Okay.
Cool down. He's saying this plane is not going to go anywhere in the next 1 hour.
So you just got to wait, and you got to wait as you want to. You can either be chaotic and all hyper about it, or you can just chill and relax.
So I learned, and then he started talking to me, and he was such an interesting guy. And he started saying all sorts of motivational things, and I got to learn a lot.
How nice. How nice.
So this is something which I really worked on, and by meeting people over the years. And to get stressed, you need to be calm under pressure.
So,
and see, the moment somebody pressurizes you, the intention is for a reaction from you.
Correct.
So the moment you give that reaction to that person succeeds.
Right.
So the moment you don't react, that means you're just cool and calm, and that person gets stressed.
Hyper, yes.
Yeah.
But there is this saying that you must, if you want to deal with your anger and understand your emotions and handle stress, you must not react, you must respond. Reaction is impulsive.
Correct.
It's just, volatility. It's just being in that moment and getting angry and pissed off, and there's chaos in your head.
Right.
But a response is something that you think over. You have given yourself, you've pulled back for a moment.
Correct.
And then you're thinking, okay, now that I am in this situation, what am I supposed to do? Should I just calm down? Should I not react? Should I not say anything? If I want to say something, how can I say it properly by putting my point across without creating a havoc around it? So I think reaction versus response is what we're actually talking about. All those people at the airport were reacting, but they're not responding to the situation.
Absolutely,
and
well said.
This person talking to you, he was responding to the situation. Yes.
Absolutely. Well observed, I would say. Good. Yeah. I mean, that's the way it is. That's the reality of the matter.
Right.
So, this is what our life is all about. You're going to be faced with these situations all around.
Right.
In the office, at home, with your friends, with your partners. There's going to be stress everywhere.
All the time.
So I think you hit the nail on the head by saying, how do you respond instead of reacting?
Yes.
So it's a very powerful thought.
Vulnerability is very interesting. It can be extremely positive and extremely negative for us. Being vulnerable sometimes helps us to overcome our fears. Because in a moment, you want to take a decision or a step which you find extremely challenging. That's great. But vulnerability in anger will always make you react. Always make you in this position where you'll either not find a solution to your problem, or at the end of it, you'll be the one apologizing. Or you lose out on a relationship because of ego. So these are the three possibilities when you are vulnerable,
well said,
angry, and react,
Very true.
So now that we're talking about investments, I think one kind of investment that I would definitely like to make a mention about, actually two. One is investing in yourself.
I wanted to start out with that, but then you said it.
Never mind. So we're coming towards the end with that. Doesn't matter. We'll still leave it impactful. So one is investing in yourself, and I think the second one, I believe, is investment in networking. Like you said, your entire journey, you've been meeting people, learning from people. So I think investing in yourself and investing some time in understanding people around you. Sometimes just a stranger can teach you something and walk away. Right? I believe those kind of investments are extremely essential as well. So what's your take on that, Iden?
I think it's a very good thought. And I think what I want to say about this is something to do with our brains.
Right.
Okay? Our brains are the most powerful assets that we have. And we don't realize that. And if we use it improperly, okay, it becomes the most powerful liability.
Wow.
Okay,
that's a thought I don't think anybody really.
That's a serious thought.
Yeah.
So if you think deeply on what I just said, if you use your brain, which is the most powerful asset, and use it properly, it can take you places. But if you use it the wrong way, improper use, it'll be your most powerful liability, and that's a fact of life.
Right.
So I'll leave you with that thought, because that's what...
Oh dear, that's a very heavy thought. Yeah. Leave me with something light here, Iden. No, that is an important thought. So let's assume that we all have very powerful assets in terms of our brains. So what is that one last thought that you'd like to share with us on the show today?
What you need to do, what I feel is, in life, each of us, what we need to do is, we need to create our own assets.
Right.
Now when I say your brain is an asset, so with that asset, we need to create our own assets, rather than buy somebody else's asset.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is one.
So can you just do a recap of that statement for me so that the listeners get this right?
So you should be willing to create your own asset.
Okay. You have to create your own asset.
So your brain is your own asset, right? So you need to develop that own asset.
So developing your brain or any asset that you have.
Correct.
Right.
So like you said, invest in yourself.
Correct.
That's the crux of the entire issue.
Yes.
We don't realize that if you invest in yourself, everything else is sorted, because you're spending your time here. That's an investment. Right. You're working here. That's an investment for your future. You're doing something for somebody. That's an investment for that person.
Right.
You're spending your time, which is your money. So create your own assets rather than buying somebody else's asset.
All right. So creating your own assets rather than buying somebody else's assets is Iden's thought on how he would like to kind of leave you guys with a message here. Also, a penny saved is a penny earned.
Absolutely. You cannot forget those old sayings.
No. You cannot. Because I was always confused about this saying. I mean, how do you earn this penny that you are just saving? But then, as I grew older, I realized the importance of this saying. I mean, literally. That's why you have those little piggy banks and things like that. And that's amazing. So, well, all you guys out there, I hope you enjoyed listening to us. Thank you, Iden, for being on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
And having such amazing thoughts on investments and life and stress and all the things that you've spoken about. Some wonderful tips for our listeners.
Thank you for calling me here.
Thank you so much.
It was wonderful to meet all of you.
Great. Thank you. And guys, I'd like to leave you with this last thought. When you invest, you are buying a day that you don't have to work for in your life. So all the very best and start investing today. See you guys next time. If you liked this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have. Paisa Vaisa is brought to you by Paytm Money.
Hi, I'm Satyajit.
Hi, I'm Racheta.
We are from the Open Library Project and we host a podcast called Paperback.
Paperback is a podcast where we engage with stalwarts and experts from various industries, suggesting non-fiction titles that contributed to their journey in a big way.
We've had guests like Anjali Raina, Dr. Marcus Rani, Dr. Swati Lodha, Ambi Parmeswaran, Apurva Damani, and many more on our show Paperback. Find new episodes every Wednesday on IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.